Hi, Lana. That's correct. I actually am reading a new poem. It's actually called Say No More to Alcohol. Yeah. I'll tell you about the poem. So basically, when I first read the title of the poem, it was very clear that it was going to be about quitting alcohol. And the author would give reasons on why to quit, and he would make it very descriptive and very emotional, to really get that factor going of quitting for, you know. The poem isn't in a stanza form. It's really just like line down, just each line. But the way I interpreted the poem was that alcohol is kind of like a predator and it's stalking its prey, messing with it, taunting it, and whatever. But then at the end, it comes in and swoops, the prey away, which is like a metaphor for, death. The alcohol, alcohol poisoning, failed liver, whatever. Basically stuff like that. It completely ruins everything in your family. It does a lot of damage, The poem did have a lot of really good keywords that, describe the meaning of the poem very well and allowed for the meaning to come through. Like one word I found was poison, because it allowed for the meaning of alcohol killing you slowly, on the inside. The reason I concluded this was because the author did point out that alcohol is known for slow poisoning. Even though regular poison kills you immediately, alcohol kills you slowly. Slave in the poem was the next one I saw, and what it was, it's not, the author Robbie was not using it in a way where it's literally like a person that is owned by another person. He's using it in more of a way that you are basically a slave to alcohol, and how it forces you to do things that you probably wouldn't do. And he goes into very deep and dark things, how you're screaming at your wife, you're abusing your children, and just a lot of really dark themes in the poem that are associated with his wording. Say No More to Alcohol has a really deeper meaning than what would be seen at eye level, if you just scan it. But once you really get into it and really look at it, it dives deep into what, happens with alcohol abuse and how, it causes so much pain in someone's life, including to themselves, but then also including to the people around them. They quickly become abusive from the alcohol, and it's a very sad truth. When I was reading the poem, the speaker, when I was like, I guess the narrator in my head, it seemed to almost come from a place of regret, as if everything he's describing happened to the speaker. I basically concluded this because the whole poem, everything, is the whole poem. Everything I read had that tone to where it was like, please don't do this, please don't drink alcohol. Look what happened here. Look what happened to me or my family, from the speaker's perspective. But the author's tone seemed very more serious, as he was very passionate on the subject and wanted to bring more awareness to it. So I'm guessing that's why the author did choose to write it like that. Maybe he had a family member that, had an alcohol addiction problem and quickly became abusive, and they would hurt everyone around them. And I'm guessing that, in the last 4 lines where he said, you not only make your heart weak, but also your loved ones, it is not too late and you can make your life worth living. You love your family and do not allow your family to go astray. Give up alcohol and say no more. It's basically like his begging, I guess, to tell you to, stop, go to AAA, because you're gonna hurt yourself and you're gonna hurt your family. if you keep continuing on with this lifestyle. There were a couple shifts in the poem. When I was reading it through, it's a very emotional poem, and that's, obvious of a poem of this kind of subject when it deals with abuse, substance, and, the other kind of abuse. It is, very going to be deep. But I saw quite a bit of shifts in here. I saw two main ones that really caught the attention of my eye. So the first one was in the line where it says, screaming over your beloved wife and abusing your lovely children. For me, that did put a shift in the change, because it goes into the deeper matters, because maybe Ravi felt that it wasn't represented enough in poetry and literature. So I think that's why he included that shift there, to make it a more serious and get his point through about why you need to stop. And then the second shift that I saw was in actually, again, the four last lines, where to me it basically sounds that Ravi is pleading with you to stop alcohol abuse. Again, maybe he saw someone, family friend going through this, and he's like, I want people who read my poetry not to go through this, because I've seen firsthand how destructive it can be. So maybe, he doesn't want that for people. So he's, begging you to stop. And he's reminding you of your family and how it's not too late. After I was done reading the poem, I actually went back to the very beginning. Not even the beginning of the poem, but the very beginning of the title, Say No More to Alcohol. Now, when I first read the title, I wasn't, I saw what I saw. I already said what I saw. But I actually took a closer attention to the last 6 dots at the end. Now, when I read that, again, at a more interpretive level of what I know now compared to what I didn't know, those 6 dots to me feel that that's like his final thing, like that's his final declaration and his final plead to, go to rehab and make better choices and stop drinking and become abstinent, because it can cause a lot of problems in the future that I'm pretty sure you obviously would not want to happen. I took away 3 main themes from this poem. There was a lot of themes in this poem that I really captured throughout reading it. The first one that I saw was temptation. Now, I actually saw this one in line 7, where it says alcohol basically gives you a hug. And what that means is that it slowly lures you into thinking that, it takes away your problems, when in the reality it's creating more and more problems. And then the next thing you know, it completely takes over your life, which actually throws us into the next theme, the second theme, control. I read those in lines 8 through 12, where it basically, alcohol controls you and takes over your life. It makes you do dumb things and stupid things that you should never do. It makes you turn abusive. It makes you act stupid. And I think that's another theme that was very present throughout the poem. That was a very main theme. The last one I saw was abstinence. Now, again, this one is in the last 4 lines till the end. Now, the next theme is, the next and last theme is abstinence, where in the lines 14 to the end, the last 4 lines, the author, Ravi, is telling you to turn back. It's not too late. All alcohol does is just ruin your families. It ruins yourself, ruins all the relations you have, causes so much problems. And he wants you to go abstinent. And that's where I feel where my theme of the project, abstinence and temptation, but abstinence for right now, ties into that, because he wants you to stop. He wants you to stop drinking, because of this whole poem this whole poem is about stop drinking. Look what will happen. And he made it very clear and apparent, because when you're trying to get someone to change their behavior, a very serious behavior, you wouldn't want to sugarcoat it. You would want to tell it like it is to get the memo in the person. The one thing that the poem is talking about is how alcohol abuse is not surface level. There's many different surfaces to it, and at eye level it doesn't seem that deep. It seems just, oh, a person abusing alcohol and their kidneys are failing, but in reality that person is dying. Every sip they take, they're dying. They become a slave to the alcohol. Alcohol makes them do things that normally they wouldn't do. And that's why Ravi made it so apparent in the poem that you need to stop. What Ravi would want you to take away from this poem, it's in the third line to the end, is that it's never too late. It's never too late to go seek, guidance, counseling, rehab, and get yourself healthy, not just for you, but for everybody else.